Good day. The ICAP Virtual Career Connections is pleased to present this career enhancement tool for your advancement. The topic of this session is Career Success Stories featuring your personal brand by Jody Ann Bigby and Benjamin Preston. We appreciate Jody Ann Bigby and Benjamin Preston for generously sharing their career stories for the benefit of many. Who is ICAP Professional Services and who is ICAP Virtual Career Connections? ICAP Professional Services is a social enterprise with the purpose of creating jobs in our community by enhancing employability and strengthening job creators. For more information about ICAP, please visit our website at www.icap.net. Let's give you a bird's eye view of the full range of ICAP programs. ICAP is the home of virtual career connections, enhancing employability anytime, anywhere. Community career promoter, promoting you to the next level. International circle, building your proficiency in English, technology, and social enterprise. Creative Genius Apprenticeship, elevating you to lead innovation. For more information about these programs, please visit www.icap.net and look for a special link for each program. In Career Success Stories, our guests address the following career questions. Question number 1. What are the best insightful career tips that you received from others? Question number 2. What are career lessons that you learned the hard way? Question number 3. What are your career journey stages or milestones? Question number 4. What actions in the past led you to secure jobs? In other words, what did you do right to secure jobs in the past? Question number 5. What actions led you or contributed to your advancements, promotions, and pay raises? Question number 6. What advice would you give to your younger version? Question number 7. What are career-related questions for which you are still seeking answers? Enjoy the presentation.
So without further ado, I will take you to our success story session. Today, as usual, we bring you two phenomenal individuals, and I look forward to hear from them. And the first guest is Benjamin Preston. Our other guest is Jody Ann Bigby. If we can get to the next slide, you can see there beautiful pictures. And yeah, I would like to start by thanking you, both of you, for the time that you're giving us to share your career stories, to motivate us and help us grow in career fields. Before we leave the floor to our guest, I would like to say a little bit about our guest. So Jody Ann is a branding and communications consultant and an empowerment speaker. Jody Ann has spent the past decade working with individuals and businesses to achieve their marketing and communication goals through her consultancy, the Professionista LLC. Some of her notable clients and collaborations include the Ritz-Carlton Residences, CMA Communities, Executive Women of Goita, I believe that's it. I'll be corrected later on. And WSP National Campaign for Financial Literacy. As a speaker, Jody Ann's virtual workshops, online events, and transformational challenge empower participants to live life by design, not by default. Our second guest is Benjamin Preston. Benjamin is an award-winning business consultant and career strategist. Benjamin consults with businesses to support initiatives and marketing, business strategy, operations, employment development, and human resources. He also offers one-to-one coaching for young professionals to uncover their unique strengths and passion for an exciting career. He is the author of the Harness Your Butterflies, the young professional's metamorphosis to an exciting career, and has been featured on Ditch the Job, The Offer, Human Capital Innovations, and certifiably unemployable for his strategic career advice. I'm sure everyone is as excited as I am to hear from this two amazing guests. Our guests, like I would like to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself and to tell us anything about you. Jody, I will start with you.
Hello, Fasil, and thank you for the wonderful introduction that you've already given. Um, as you've already shared, my name is Jody Ann Bigby, and I hail from the beautiful city of Atlanta, Georgia, though I am currently based in Washington, District of Columbia, and I'm so happy to be here. And yes, my background is in branding and communications. My company, the Professionista LLC, allows me to utilize that skill set to serve both individuals and small businesses in achieving their goals and really communicating what sets them apart from their competition and why the products, services, and solutions that they offer are of value and meet the needs of the clients and customers that they serve. And I absolutely love doing what I do. I call it speaking life for a living. So whether I am working with a client to develop their communications strategy, or actually speaking from a stage or a virtual venue such as this one, I really enjoy enriching the lives of others and empowering them to reach their goals. I really do consider it to be a calling, and it's something that I absolutely enjoy doing every single day. So yes, thank you for allowing me to be here.
Awesome, Jody. Thank you very much for that introduction. Ben, would you like to continue?
Yeah, it's fun hearing Jody Ann's her elevator pitch too, because I feel like I resonate strongly with everything she's saying. Similar journeys. I work with businesses, like you said, to help them with some of their marketing operational stuff, but really to maximize how they can use their internal resources. A lot of times businesses don't know how to shift with times usually. And moving their teams forward is sometimes difficult. So I like to take the best of both worlds, work with businesses to help them sort of take the passion from their teams and leverage that, as well as helping individuals find their passion and find the thing that really lights them up and gets them excited. And I know that there was a part of Jody Ann's bio that I really, really loved, which was helping people create a career by design, not by default. And I feel like I kind of want to adopt that because I feel like I do something very similar. So very excited to be here.
Awesome, Ben. Is there anything you would like to add about yourself, like what your background is on and so on?
Oh yeah, so I started very quickly. I started off in corporate communications and marketing, and I eventually moved into running a couple of my own businesses, some more successful than others. But yeah, I really enjoy the working with businesses and working with individuals on career development, because we all have careers and we all need to kind of figure out how to navigate them, and nobody really tells you how. So that's what I really strive to do, is kind of help people navigate their careers in a way that's really exciting for them. But I didn't always do that. So it's kind of a full circle career for me so far.
That's wonderful. So I had a chance like to moderate like different sessions in the past, and I've had like amazing people on this sessions. And like one thing that is common with our guests is like they tend to focus on empowerment, and that's the whole point of this club as well, like empowering people. And I've noticed that through your works, like you empower people, even like both of you. So Jody, I rate that like you work on like women empowerment as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what your recent Reclaim 2020 challenge was all about?
Sure. So when I first started the Professionista LLC back in 2011, we're celebrating 10 years, which is mind-blowing to me and amazing. But when I first started the Professionista LLC, I started it as an image consultancy. So I was working more so one-on-one as opposed to with, small businesses and organizations, working one-on-one with clients, mostly professional women who were entrepreneurs, who were very much well established in their careers. And the objective was always to help them look their best, feel their best, and discover the best within themselves within that image consulting process. So everything from wardrobe styling to communications coaching, and really giving them the tools to elevate not only their professional presence, but to take their confidence to the next level as well. Because surprisingly, even though many of these women were quite accomplished, quite established in their fields, they still, just being human, had areas that they weren't quite so confident about. And sometimes it would come through in their work, or when it was time to ask for that raise, that hesitation to do so, even though based on their work, based on what they had done for their companies, if anything, they would almost be entitled to that just because of all the contributions that they've made. So it really was about, they brought the 90% to the table, and I just helped by adding that 10%, that little bit that they may have been missing, to give them that final boost that they needed to, to ask for that raise or to secure that top tier client or whatever it was that they were looking to accomplish. And so fast forward to the year 2020, which was quite the year. I'm sure everyone has been, their lives have been disrupted one way or another by just what has gone on a global scale. It's certainly not, life as usual. And so in light of all of that and the way that we really all have been impacted by that, I really sought out a way to help women to essentially reclaim their time, reclaim their confidence, reclaim themselves. Because so often you find that we as women tend to take on the weight of the world. And when the weight of the world is as heavy as it was in 2020, I'm sure everyone can attest to that, it can be overwhelming. And so I really do believe that women really are the bedrock of families, of communities, of so many organizations. And if the woman is not okay, then no one's okay, because we really, not knocking the guys, I promise, not knocking the guys at all, but there's just something really, really valuable and powerful that a woman brings to the table. And so making sure that we as women are okay, and that we have the time, the space to make sure that that is the case for us, both individually and collectively, is my way of getting back to those, I guess, those image consulting roots, helping them to look and feel their best and really rediscover, reclaim the best within themselves, no matter what's going on in the world. So it's been an honor and a pleasure to provide this experience to women. I've loved it.
That is really great, Jody. I'm sure it was timely. It was a great initiative. I'm sure you made all the goals for that project. And as you said, indirectly, Maine will definitely benefit from that initiative, even if it's not direct. So thank you very much for that.
Absolutely.
Then the next question is for you. So in your bio, I was reading it and I was really amazed. And as a job seeker, I hope this is not personal, but I'm sure we have job seekers in the sessions here and there. So through your one-to-one coaching, what's the most common challenge that job seekers have to overcome? Just to add to that, you also wrote a book entitled,
Harness Your Butterflies.
Harness Your Butterflies.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, so a lot of people that I work with are younger professionals. And the thing that's really interesting the thing that I see the most, there's I would say a very small percentage of people who actually know where they want to go. And at least the first couple of years out of school, and I'm sure that a lot of people can relate to this. I for sure was one of them when I was younger. I had a ton of family members or, teachers or mentors or people who I really admired being like, do what you love, chase your passions, but nobody ever tells you how to get there. And so the thing that I see the most is a lot of young professionals, or a lot of professionals in general, wanting to come into the workforce, wanting to make an impact, and usually wanting to make a big impact. They usually have a big dream of what they want to accomplish, but they don't know what their passions are, and they don't know what the specifics of that impact will look like. So a lot of the people that I work with, it's starting with the very foundations of going back to the roots of like, what are you good at? And instead of answering the big question of, what's my life purpose? I hear that a lot of people being like, listen, I don't really care what my career is. I just want to find my purpose and figure out how to get there as fast as I can. And I'm like, then you will never get there with that approach. So figuring out how to make your life more purposeful today. And the way that I usually do that, and the way that I wrote the book, just to kind of tie it together, the book was written as my sort of roadmap of when I was learning how to find my purpose and find my way in life. Not that I ever have it really fully figured out, but the different steps and the different tools and frameworks that I learned along the way of how to tie in your career development, as well as tying in a lot of business lessons. Because I feel like in order to succeed as a professional, you need to understand the other side of the equation, which is the business side of it. So you can't really move up unless you understand how organizations work. So kind of taking those barriers down for people and saying, here's the look behind the curtain of how the career process really works. And that's what I outline in the book. And so when I work one-on-one with people, it's usually starting them on the foundational aspects of like, love yourself first. I know that sounds a little cliche, but it's like, appreciate your own skill sets, appreciate your own strengths. And then from there, understand where you want to go, develop out your roadmaps, understand your organizations, and you'll be a lot more successful rather than going into an organization and being like, I need to prove myself, I need to make an impact. Because usually what happens is people set these expectations really high and then they come short because they don't know where they want to go. And so they spend 5 years in their career and they say, I'm unhappy. And it's like, well, yeah, because you don't know who you are, you don't know what you want, and you don't know how to articulate your next step. So it's a lot of that.
That is really great. So as a job seeker, like for the past couple of months, like I've been trying to improve and like learn new skills like that can help me like outstand from like the other candidates as well. So we always say in the session that there is always a room for growth. There is always like a room for like advancement. So, services like as yours and like, anything that can help you like, get like your dream job, like I believe it's very essential. And I look forward to reading your book, Ben. With that, I go to Jody. Jody, what are the career lessons that you have to learn in a hard way? This is for both of you. Like Jody, you can answer, and then like Ben, you can continue.
Good question. Good question. A career lesson that I learned the hard way was actually, I actually learned in 2020, this past year. I had, so even as I have the Professionista LLC, there was a season where I wasn't taking on any new clients, and I actually was brought on full-time with a faith-based nonprofit and worked with them for 2 years, learned a ton. And to the point of the question, some of those lessons were difficult ones. And one in particular was I'd actually received a promotion after having been with the organization for 11 months. And it was a promotion to a position that didn't exist before. It was newly created. And I was working very closely with the department manager of the marketing department. So working with the department manager to restructure some of the processes and different things within the department to align with where the organization was going. And in that process, now granted, with it being a new a totally new role. There wasn't really a handbook. There weren't any SOPs in place. A lot of it, we some of the things we were creating as we went along. And so but I found myself, like, I guess, being the high achiever that I'm used to being, I found myself stressing a lot and actually developing quite a bit of anxiety around the new position, because I initially had some difficulty finding my footing. And so the importance of asking for help and then being able to admit, hey, I don't necessarily know what to do here, what to do with this, instead of trying to have all the answers, was a career lesson that I definitely learned the hard way. A lot of time was wasted. A lot of unnecessary anxiety was experienced on my end. There were some times where, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess some projects that could have moved forward a lot more smoothly weren't as smooth as they could be, and knowing that it was okay because the position didn't exist before. So I think embracing the fact that it was something new instead of being anxious about not having all the answers, that was something that I certainly learned through that experience. And just knowing that, this manager saw something in me, and really this was something that was expressed to me time and time again, the fact that I was seen as an asset. And so there was no need to really stress about it. It really was an opportunity to grow and to learn and to be okay with making mistakes. I think with my background in consulting, you're expected to have the answers that your clients are looking for. And so coming into an organization where not necessarily a client, but you're still, using that same approach, it was a shift and a change for me. So I think that was one that I learned the hard way, but I'm so glad that I did learn it.
That is really great. That's something we can all relate to. We will find in different situations that might cause stress and like anxiety, and knowing how to deal with it, as you said, is very crucial. And most of us are not good when it comes to asking for help. So that really solves it. So that's a great lesson that can apply to each and every one of us. Ben, who would like to answer that question?
Yeah. So one career, I mean, there have been many, but the one I think that's most important to me that I learned the hard way is probably the dynamic of trust. So I was when I first started out in my career, I was very trusting of everyone, especially high-level executives, because I was just like, well, obviously, if they are, high up in their career, then they must be successful, or they must be trustworthy, they must have integrity, which is not always the case. A couple of years ago, I was leading a marketing team and reporting to an executive, and I was at the time, I didn't realize it was me understanding the dynamics of trust, but at one component, I was working with my team and trying to build sort of collaboration and teamwork among my team. So on one side, I was, learning through the pressure of the job, the importance of team trust and team dynamics. But then on the other side, I was dealing with an executive who really didn't like me. And at the time, I wasn't sure that she was out to get me, quote unquote. But I did learn I got burned a couple times just learning, you can't always trust everybody that you work with. Obviously you want to go into working situations trusting the people that you work with. But if someone has proven to you that they don't deserve your trust or that they haven't earned your trust, then you would not keep building a relationship with that person on a foundation that doesn't exist. So I think for me, trust is always a crucial component to team dynamics and team building and sort of collaboration and that sort of thing. But there are people that I have encountered who are toxic, and it's not always great to continue building trust with those individuals. So I would say that was probably the biggest thing for me. That was the biggest lesson that I learned.
Thank you very much, Ben. So this is more like a follow-up question from your answers earlier on. Jody, you mentioned like your promotion to that position you were telling us about. So the next question is, what really led you for like advancements or promotions or pay raises through your career? Like anything that can come handy, like to get to the next level. This question is for both of you.
Yes. So something that comes to mind, I had the opportunity to work with a pretty notable luxury brand a number of years ago, and I came on as an assistant, an operations assistant, and it was an opportunity to delve more into the luxury market, but from more of the behind the scenes side of things. I had a number of collaborations sort of on the front end and in the marketing space, and particularly experiential marketing and things like that. But this is an opportunity to see the behind the scenes. And something that I actually, because I was so excited about getting the position, I remember saying to myself before my first day that I was going to be the best operations assistant they ever had. They were going to miss me on my days off. And if at some point I leave, whoever comes and takes up this position, I'm going to be a tough act to follow. And I went into every day with that same attitude. And I remember even just like the first week, just learning a lot about just making a point of picking up on things quickly and taking a lot of notes and being really attentive and just being like whatever it would take to be the best as far as my best was concerned. I was determined to be that every single day. And so though I started as an operations assistant, my responsibilities quickly increased just because of the level of the quality of the work that I was bringing to the team. They felt that they could entrust me with more. And I even had the opportunity to actually implement some things, some of the ideas that I had. Again, always having on that consulting hat, that professionista consulting hat, always thinking up strategies on how to just make something flow better, something function better, just different suggestions and things that I would bring to the table were actually implemented relatively quickly because that trust factor had been built because of the consistent quality of the work that I brought. And so, that opened the door to even just promotions within that organization that I was, opportunities that I was really, really excited to receive simply because that attitude from day one, even before, actually that was before day one, going into it with that attitude that the solution that I bring to the table, no matter how small, is exactly what that company needs. And it really served me well.
Thanks, Jody. That's a great point as well. Like, having the right attitude is so crucial, not only to meet the standards that are set out there, but like to exceed it. And that's really a great point. Ben?
Yeah. So at least my experience, both personally and with clients that I work with, promotions are very rarely, ideally in a perfect world, they would be based on performance. But sometimes that's not the case. There's a lot of weight, I guess, on your ability to influence or network or socialize with sort of the people at the tier above you and even 2 levels above you. So I feel like for me, the thing that's really helpful in terms of getting a promotion is not only working on your technical skills, which are like the things that you can do, sort of like the performance-based things where it's, I can accomplish this in 2 hours, but then also working on the soft skills or the social skills of how to communicate or how to influence. I think that's really underrated skill set of like how to influence other people in the office. But those type of things are really important once if you're looking to get a promotion, just kind of feeling out like what are the actual social skills that are required at that level. Because a lot of times when you get to, I will say, even the executive level or the director level, it's very rarely output based. It's usually how well can you handle conflict, how well can you navigate sort of sensitive situations and get the work done regardless of all these loopholes and things you have to jump through. So in terms of getting a promotion, I think that's probably the most important. But then once you're actually in the role of having, once you've moved up, I think being able to learn how to manage and multitask is extremely important. Just being able to not necessarily rely only on your skill sets that you started with, but then also expanding and kind of being okay with not knowing everything, but then working to balance everything else, multitask kind of thing.
I believe that's really a great answer, Ben. The natural sense in the work environment, like the standards that you are evaluated on are mainly performance-based, but I guess like these days, a stress should be made when it comes to like improving your soft skills. Follow-up question that I would like to ask you, Ben, is like, let's say I'm shy or introvert. So is there any like methods that I can follow to work around that and then be better when it comes to like the social and soft skills you talked about?
Yeah, so I'm very extroverted, but I will say the people who I like working with the most are introverted. So I think the thing that's really interesting is if you look at some of the highest performing CEOs, usually they're not people who are standing on platforms yelling, saying, this is the way it is. It's usually the very methodical people like Warren Buffett who they say less. And so to me, I think being an introvert, and I don't have this personal empathy of being an introvert, but I think the thing that introverts have that's really a competitive advantage is being able to kind of see something before they speak and then being able to articulate it very clearly. So one teammate that I actually worked with, he was very introverted. We were sort of counter opposites. We worked really well together, but I would usually in meetings say something and kind of put my foot in my mouth and be like, ooh, I didn't mean to say it that way. And then he would say, something very similar, but he'd say it a lot more eloquent. And so for me, I almost had to learn to stop talking. And for him, it was, I think there's a lot of advantages that introverts have just by being able to say meaningful things at the right time. And I think being able to be, and it all kind of depends on your strengths too, because I think relying on your strengths is probably my go-to for no matter what your personality type. But I think just introverted people in general have a natural competitive advantage if they have the space to actually speak up and be heard.
Thank you very much, Ben, for that answer. So Jody, I'm going to come back to you. And actually the question that I have in mind was like, I was about to ask you so that you can share insightful tips you received through your career, but I would not miss this chance to hear on a career tip that you might have for us and the audience. So you can answer both questions, but like I would like you to stress on like any career tips that can be insightful for us and that you're willing to share. So like Ben, like you can also answer that question after Jody.
Sure. So this actually ties in a bit to what Ben was, some of the principles that Ben touched on from his book. One of my favorite career tips, because it applies both to career and to life, is to live on the left side of the menu. And what I mean by that, the gentleman that I received that tidbit from, he had a 16-year career in as a police officer. And as he worked as a police officer, he put years into that career while also building basically a real estate empire on the side. And though his real estate business brought in millions, he never left his job as a police officer. But in the early days, as a police officer, prior to building that real estate, that multi-million-dollar real estate empire, he had quite a few friends that he had played sports with in school and who had gone on to play overseas or in the major leagues of whatever their sport was, whether it be football, basketball, so on and so forth. And he noticed that every time he went out to eat with his friends, he noticed that he would make a point of, before ordering anything, because they only went to the finest restaurants, of course, he noticed that he would always have to look at the right side of the menu to make sure that he could afford whatever meal he was about to choose, whereas his friends never glanced at the right side. They only focused on the left side. They only focused on what they wanted, what they had a taste for, what they were interested in, and that's how they ordered. And how that applies to one's career, oftentimes we will look at a job posting online, and immediately we'll look at, okay, what are they paying? What are their benefits? All these different things. And where if we focus more so on, will this be fulfilling for me? Not just in the application process, but should you get so far as to have the opportunity to interview and really have the opportunity to sit down with the individuals that you'll be employed by, the company that you'll be employed by, really seeing it, is this something that will be satisfying to me? Similar to a meal at a fine restaurant, is this something that'll be fulfilling to me? Or is it just about the benefits package and the pay grade? If you really are seeking fulfillment in your career, it is important to make sure that you're doing work that is fulfilling and satisfying to you, that not just utilizes your skills, but is where you feel as though you're making a difference, you're making an impact. The solutions that you're providing are valued, are celebrated by the company that you're working for. And things of that nature. So living life and working on the left side of the menu is, I believe, is the best place to be.
I feel like we're gonna have very similar answers on this.
That's totally fine.
Yeah, I was like, wow, that's a really good answer. Yeah, so the title of so the book that I wrote was a career development book, and the title of it was Harness Your Butterflies, for a couple reasons. But mostly the feeling of butterflies in your stomach, to me, is this idea of always being excited, always feeling like you're moving, or moving towards something that you want. And the thing that I think is really sometimes forgotten in careers is we sculpt our own experiences, we create, and sometimes you don't. Sometimes it's something where other people decide things for you. But to me, the most exciting and fulfilling parts of working and being employed and kind of collaborating with other people is being able to sculpt your own experience. And I think the way that you do that is an emotional journey. I mean, I think there's a lot of logic behind, decisions of, I'm going to take this job, this is the salary, this is the location. Like, there's a lot of logistical things, but at the end of the day, the feeling journey that you go on is almost as important as the logic journey that you go on when it comes to careers. Because at the end of the day, if you go home and you're making, a lot of money, but you still feel really drained, it's not going to feel very good, and it's going to probably eat you alive. So even if you're in a position that you feel like it's a logical decision, if it doesn't align with your emotions and it doesn't make you feel excited, or at least some semblance of butterflies in your stomach for some aspects of your job, it's not going to be a smooth ride for you.
Thank you very much, Ben. Let me forward my last questions. So do you believe in career milestones? Some people try to plan ahead and then come up with their own career goal or milestones. So is that something you've been having or planning or developing for your careers? Is it good? What can you tell us about career milestones?
Sure. I would say that milestones are important to acknowledge simply because they provide you with an opportunity to see how far you've come, to celebrate the growth that you have experienced over time. I I can think of one particular milestone in my career was actually back in 2000, I believe that was, well, yes, the beginning of 2011. And I had been working as a manager. It was my second job actually out of school, and I was working as a manager, and it had been a really rough holiday season. And anyone who has been in any sort of retail knows that, the holidays, that's when that can make or break your business. And so it was a particularly rough holiday season, and I was actually laid off. And but in being laid off, I rested immediately after for 2 weeks. And I remember that the name, the Professionista, came to me, and that's how the Professionista was born. Actually, being laid off is what led me to the career path that I'm on today. And while I could see how that could be something that's particularly, that could be devastating, especially if you've worked in a field for a particularly long time, or worked with an organization or a company for a while. So much has gone into that particular phase of your career, but it's not the end. And I am living proof of that. So especially in light of, what we've even witnessed in our economy, so many layoffs and so many people who are without work and have gone without work for some time. Just know, this is just a word of encouragement to you, that it is not the end. And the path that you take may not be the one that you'd originally planned for. But if, being willing to pivot if need be, may just be the key to the next level of success for you. Even if it's in an unexpected field or unexpected organization, it may just be the next best thing for you. So just a word of encouragement there.
Thank you very much, Jody. So Ben, before you answer that question, I'm going to tweak that question for you. I promise it's not going to be hard. But we have two questions. So the first one is like, what are hints on marketing consulting services? It says, what are hints on marketing consulting services? Word on the street, Bain, is you do have a career accelerator program. So can you tell us anything about that?
Yeah, so I'll do the career accelerator pitch first, just so, because I think it'll be quick. But yeah, so I wrote Harness Your Butterflies, and then from that I had people reaching out to me just wanting more details, like, people being like, hey, can we do a career coaching, and where you dive more into the tools and tips and tricks and things like that. So I built the Career Accelerator program, which is an online course to really get people from a place of feeling uncertain about their careers to feeling confident. And so that's kind of the idea of going from, I'm relying on myself to I know how to make an impact and I know where I want to make an impact. But yeah, so that's the quick overview of the Career Accelerator program. And then do you want me to jump into Max's question?
Sure.
Okay. The biggest thing that I've seen from a marketing standpoint, I think a lot of businesses are trying to figure out what post-pandemic looks like. And I think some of the biggest trends are more with customer preferences. There's a lot more customers who are, and this is kind of research that's based off of Gartner and McKinsey, where they did a lot of analysis on customer, like viewing sort of like general population and how they respond to businesses' different efforts for marketing and promotions and stuff. And they found that more people are gravitating toward earned media as opposed to paid media. So seeing more like news coverage as opposed to an ad blasting on Facebook or an ad on YouTube or whatever. So I would say there's some promotional changes that companies can make post-pandemic that are more earned media based. And then the second thing is that a lot of consumers are, now that they are at home, and this is kind of a no-brainer, but I think it goes deeper than kind of the surface level, which is that consumers are now lazy because they're at home and they kind of are expecting companies to meet them more than halfway. So I think a lot of companies moving post-pandemic are going to have to readjust the way that they do their operations and their digital presence to make the consumer experience as lazy as possible, whether that be like, grocery delivery or things like, if that's just kind of like the basic level examples, but the services and the different businesses, no matter what industry you're in, you kind of have to reevaluate the customer experience. So from my standpoint, those are kind of the big things that I'm seeing from a marketing standpoint.
Yet again, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for your stories.
Thank you for taking the time to watch these career success stories. More career resources are available at this channel. We greatly appreciate receiving your feedback in the comment section for our future improvement. Make it a fantastic day.